Welcome to the Volpe Report podcast, the state's premier public affairs show dedicated to the topics that matter most to Pennsylvanians. I'm your host, Chuck Volpe. Join us now as we speak to this week's guest.
The following half-hour show is a paid political program and is not endorsed by this station, management, or staff.
The following program is brought to you by Excalibur Insurance Management Services.
Welcome to the Volpe Report. This is a special edition of Chuck's show. This is part 2 of the Volpe Report, coming to you from the Midtown Hilton in New York City. Chuck has some great guests and fascinating topics lined up, so be sure to stay with us for the next half hour.
This is the Volpe Report, a weekly news and political interview show examining the latest local, state, and national issues with Chuck Volpe. Insightful, informative, controversial, the area's premier political talk show, the Volpe Report.
Congressman, welcome again back to the Volpe Report. This is officially now makes you the most regular guest. 6 years a U.S. Congressman, going into your 4th term for your 7th and 8th year in Congress. And you have been the standby. You're the one that helped. It's for one thing for me to talk about what our country faces, what the issues are, but to have you come up from Washington and tell your constituents and the viewership of all of Northeast and Central Pennsylvania what you're fighting for. You did a great job of crystallizing the issues, and you got one other honor. You have had the best one-liners. Like, you could have a career as a consultant. I remember some of them, like, wake up and woke down, I said could be on a bumper sticker, and you've come up with some of the best lines. And you had, and we're going to get into the first question this way, you had a unique perspective. U.S. Senator Dave McCormick has been on this show, taking on a monumental Herculean task of beating Bob Casey, 3-term, 18-year U.S. Senator. Then we had Rob Bresnan on this show, and we're talking about him again, taking on a 6-term House Appropriations Chairman, Caucus Administrator, top leadership, beating Matt Cartwright. But you were like the Godfather, sitting back. 70% of the vote again. No one really challenged you. They've conceded your seat. So you kind of looked and saw from a bigger picture. I know you spent a lot of your time campaigning around Pennsylvania for U.S. Senator Dave McCormick. You helped him win. I know you spent your time traveling the country, including to Mar-a-Lago, helping elect President Donald J. Trump, the 47th president. So give me your perspective. You didn't have a tough race, but you were sitting there hoping for the best for our country. Identify for our viewers what needed to get done and what you think will happen in Pennsylvania and in the White House now that we have a Republican House, a Republican Senate. And is this your first time having a Republican Senate since you've been a congressman?
Is it my first time having a Republican Senate? It most certainly is. Yep, Chuck Schumer's had the gavel since I've been in office. Yes.
So tell us what you see ahead for this country and for our state.
Well, I will tell you, first off, this is a great setting. We cannot fall short of not thanking Chuck Volpe for everything that you do.
Too kind.
You are one of the best Pennsylvanians perhaps there's ever been. You are always leaning in. You are a job creator. You're a community leader. You do these shows that inform the people. And I'll tell you what, as you were a former Democrat, you're a Republican now. You are about the truth. You are about what's right. That's what you are. You're completely about the truth and providing that to people. And I love that because I'll tell you what, I was in business for a good 25 years, and come the end of the day, it's all about the truth. If you fool yourself, you go out of business in the private sector. In the public sector, unfortunately, people try to fool others, and look what happened. Fortunately, the American people were not fooled this time around, because they're not going to say, oh, our economy's doing fine, oh, our country's doing fine, oh, our border's secure. They looked at it a lot differently. So just kudos to you. I had the opportunity today to talk to the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association.
You were one of the main speakers.
I was one of the main.
A great honor.
Yeah, it really was. It was the first time I had that honor. And I laid out what the Trump administration was going to accomplish. But I also, in the last 5 or 6 minutes, talked about how I was fearful that Pennsylvania was going to fall behind. And I don't want Pennsylvania to fall behind. I want Pennsylvania to be number one. I don't want Pennsylvania to be a 7-9 football team or an 8-8 football team. I want to go to the Super Bowl. As I said in my speech today, I think Pennsylvania, unfortunately right now, if we were a stock, our price is 20. It should be 40, and it can go to 80, if not 100. We can do great things. And the thing is, with the Trump administration right now, we are going to do some great things. America is going to become more competitive from an economic front. That's going to lead to great things for the American people. Our national security is going to be improved. Our energy programs are going to be better and cleaner at the same time. Our border is going to be secure, and we're going to bring world stability. These things are going to get done. And why they weren't done before, look, that's now in the past. I just think that we have these opportunities. We got to be smart about it. We got to work together as Republicans and Democrats. How about just as Americans, and move forward? But I will tell you this. Back to the Pennsylvania issue I brought up. As you know, I care a lot. I want Pennsylvania to be in the same realms, the same echelons, the same levels of Florida, Texas, heck, even Georgia and Indiana are in the top 5 best places to start a business, to live, to have a best quality of life. Pennsylvania needs to get there. I don't think, President, we have the vision or the plan to get there, and that needs to change. We got Dave McCormick, as you said, as U.S. Senator. He's going to be a Pennsylvania United States Senator. We're all going to work together, and we're going to work on this, but we're going to need some significant changes along the way to accomplish what truly we should accomplish.
Well, that's well said, and not surprising, Dan. But I want to say something you really can't say. I know I have my sources, and you are clearly targeted by President Trump to play a role in his administration in different key departments. And because of the very narrow 219-216 margin of only 3 votes, you talked with Speaker Johnson, and he said, Dan, I need you to stay here in U.S. Congress. So at sacrifice for your own personal ego and resume and all that, and to play a role in a very important position, you're staying right, for the time being, at least, you're staying right there in your seat in U.S. Congress because it's the right thing to do. So have your chance to have your name up in lights, but you're staying right there representing the people of Northeast and Central Pennsylvania. And that selflessness deserves to be called out because these stories the press doesn't talk about. So I want to say, as a member of this part of Pennsylvania, we're lucky to have you. United States of America is lucky to have you.
Well, that's really great of you to mention, and that is the truth. I've had various discussions with the transition team and President Trump directly, and we had thought I would play a role or have a position within his administration. But as you stated, with the minimal margins that we have in the House, that would be very, honestly, irresponsible. I wouldn't do it, and the administration wouldn't do it, and we had that discussion. So it may occur some other time. You know what? I've always been a team player. Everything I've ever done in my life, I've been a team player. When I played football, when I played baseball. When I played football, I was a running back, but I was the best blocker on my team. I always made sure I would out-hustle everybody. That hasn't changed me. You know what? It's worked out okay for me over time. So I'm a team player. We're gonna keep our majority. We're gonna work closely with the president. And you know what? God has a plan too, right? Okay. So
yes,
we'll see what happens moving forward. But I'm gonna just do the best I can in the position I am. It's an honor to serve. I mean, that goes without saying.
Of course.
As a House member, but we shall see what the future brings. And I wanted to be meaningful. Be meaningful for my district, be meaningful for Pennsylvania, and obviously for our country.
Well, I'll leave you out on this. You mentioned it, what you did as a running back, and you were an athlete, and it bears mention now that you have a son that played for Dallas area high school, a great player, all kinds of all-stars and awards, plays college football. And the thing about your son, he was a great running back, but he was also a great blocker, a great team player. Someone once said to me, if you plant apples, you get apples. And I am honored that I'm going to come to your home for his graduation. I don't know where that time went. 8 years, like
Right.
first high school, then college, it blew right by. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, Chuck. Thanks.
Merry Christmas
Merry
to you and
Christmas.
Shelley.
You're the best. Appreciate you. Merry Christmas.
U.S. Congressman Dan Meuser. We'll be right back. Senator, welcome to the Volpe Report.
Thank you, Chuck. Thanks for having me. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and your family. And I like to point out the guests have been on again and again and again and again. And you have been one of those guests. I have had the privilege and the pleasure of watching you grow from a member of the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania. Then you worked your way into leadership of the House of Representatives of Pennsylvania. Then you worked your way as the HRCC chairman, which is the House Republican Campaign Committee chairman, a high position in leadership for the Republicans in the House. Now you're a Pennsylvania senator representing us in the General Assembly in a different chamber, the upper chamber, one of only 50.
That's right.
And now, if that wasn't enough, you recently were given the honor to get into leadership again. You're now the SRCC chair.
That's right. Yeah.
To raise the money and to help elect Republican senators around Pennsylvania. So in the time of the last several years on this show, I have literally watched you turn from the moth into the butterfly.
Wow. Thank you. It's an honor, and we've got great leadership in the Senate. And I'm thrilled to be there, but we couldn't do it without people like you who talk about issues and talk about ideas. People vote based on policies and based on issues, and we just saw that in the election. I mean, people voted for policies, and so we have to make sure that we don't just run good campaigns, but we run campaigns on good issues and good candidates too. We got some great candidates too. So
there's no doubt, and well, you helped select those candidates as HRCC chair. You have a different position though. You're in a divided government in Pennsylvania now, and for most, at least for a chunk of your tenure in the House, the better part of it, you were in the majority. And then I said, there goes the neighborhood. You left, and they fell into the minority.
Yeah.
So, but now you're in the majority in Pennsylvania's Senate. But you're in a divided government. You have a Democratic House. And by the way, what are the odds? I had Majority Leader Matt Bradford on this show, Democratic leader in the House for the Democrats. I congratulated him. I said, in a red tsunami, in a red wave that washed everything away, how the heck did you guys, holding a slim one vote majority, keep it?
yeah.
So at any rate, but there is now a divided government again.
Yeah, and so look, we have to figure out what we agree on and get stuff done. But you know, with the election, there is a mandate that comes with President Trump's election that we want government to get out of the way of businesses. We got to lower prices. The only way you get inflation down is, as you know, more productivity. We need a better economy. We need less regulations, less permits. The governor's talking about it this weekend. The Democrats are talking too. We need less government in our business. Get both our business as an economic driver in our lives. I mean, get the government out of our business. So, I mean, I'm always optimistic, and I think this governor does want to get stuff done. But I also think we need to make it clear that this is where we as Republicans stand, and we have to deliver. President Trump has to deliver. With the Congress, they have to deliver, and then we'll see those policies work. If the borders crossings go down, which is already happening, if crime goes down, if prices go down, if the economy heats up, then we'll get rewarded and be reelected. So it's exciting times.
There's no doubt. My feeling is, just for my 2 cents opinion, is we don't have any governor this time. We have a governor that came into high national prominence in the spotlight, a finalist contender to be the nominee of the Democratic Party for United States Vice President, and that's Josh Shapiro. So my feeling is he is now in the shortest list of frontrunners in 2028
No question.
to be the Democratic nominee for President of the United States. So, but my feeling is, with the mandate you talked about the Republicans have, the key role Pennsylvania played in Donald Trump's re-election. Well, not re-election, skip election, but second term. It's 45 and 47.
I just saw a photo of all the presidents,
right,
and it has Trump, Biden, Trump. Right? It's the only place.
It's only happened twice in the history of this country where your picture comes back twice. But at any rate, he now understands. The mandate from the voters is too far right's no good, too far left is no good, and the Democrats were too far left, and they lost, and they paid a serious penalty, a price for that. I think he believes that he needs to get to the middle to be a significant contender. And more important, it's not just about winning a Democratic primary. What good is that going to do if you put up two candidates so far left and socialist they can't win? So he's going to be that moderate Democrat. I think he's going to pattern himself after what Bill Clinton did in 1992. But to get to the middle, he's going to have to help his Democratic House with the help of the Democratic senators he has and with the help of the majority Republican senators like you. I think there's going to be grounds there. The one deficit that he had, he did, I thought, a very good job as governor. The bad news is he signed, I think it was only 13 bills in his first term. The least amount of like any governor in history. I think his mission is going to be to get bills, to move the ball down the field. To do that, he's going to have to come to the table. The House is going to have to come to the table. You guys will have to meet them halfway. I think the opportunity to move Pennsylvania ahead is going to be a historic one.
Well, remember, when he ran for governor, he talked about opportunity for kids, school choice. He talked about accelerating the corporate net income tax, which is Senator Rothman, my bill. He talked about permit reform and regulatory reform. He's done some stuff on that. So now we just have to codify that with laws. But I mean, I'm always optimistic. And I think you're right that he has to get some stuff done. And he has to show leadership to do that. So,
no doubt.
He will.
Senator, thank you.
Thank you,
Greg,
Chuck.
Always.
Always. Yes.
Merry
Thank
Christmas,
you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you,
family.
too.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Senator Greg Rothman. We'll be right back. Senator, welcome to the Volpe Report.
Great to be here, Chuck.
My good friend, you know, I've told my audience in past episodes, I like watching you from the time you're a little kid. You're one of the kids that were with Jason Ratchford and those folks, my nephew hanging out in their house, and I watched you grow up. I followed your career as a professional boxer, and you've been a fighter. And I'm going to remind our viewers something we talked about in our first show, that when you were a boxer, you could have boxed at a number of the boxing programs in northeastern Pennsylvania and in Scranton. You went down to Philadelphia to train.
And my dad told me, he said, you gotta get out of here, kid, if you want to be any good at this.
Yeah, but I remember that in that particular gym, it was in one of the black neighborhoods in Philadelphia, and they had great fighters in this gym. Those are the kind of gyms that produce, you know, Joe Frazier, and famously from Philadelphia, great black fighters came out of those gyms. And you were the only white guy in that gym, as I recall.
Yes, I was.
So to remind the viewers of that.
Yeah,
so
it was good.
Tell that story.
Yeah, it was a pretty great cultural experience to go into that gym and be. It was actually me and Mike No Joke Stewart were the only two white guys.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
there was
gym.
one
And,
other. Okay, yeah, okay.
So it was an interesting social experiment and to earn your street stripes, so to say, and get some respect. And it was great, and I made some great relationships that I still have today, which is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't one of them with the former world champion?
Bernard Hopkins, yeah.
Yes, I remember you brought him up to our area a couple times. I got to meet him because of
great guy.
Great fighter.
Yeah, great fighter.
Well, then you're going to be well prepared to handle this interview and in some of the questions. So the first question is, you obviously watched a red wave wash over Pennsylvania. You watched a red wave really wash over the whole country. And having said that, you're the kind of Democrat that I was proudly one for 45 years.
Yeah.
You're a John F. Kennedy Democrat, which to me was you were responsible for social issues and cultural issues and what are liberal type of agenda items, but you're also a tough, relatively conservative on a whole bunch of issues. So that was the kind of Democrat I was, ran for governor as that kind of Democrat. So we've been personal friends, and I've supported you anyway. But you're one of the Democrats I support with full heart because you're doing the right things. You're taking on the issues I would have taken on, the issues I support.
Yeah,
So
within my own caucus and within my own party, I've been pushing back on issues for the past 10 years and trying to get people to listen to me and say, you know,
right.
It's about the working class people of Pennsylvania that we have to represent, and that's what we have to focus on. That's what we have to talk to. You know what I mean? Someone's not going to vote in their best interest if you don't tell them what you're doing for them. You know, you can't take it for granted. And I think the Democratic Party has really dropped the ball with white working class people.
There's no question. The numbers bear it out.
And
it's not a guess. It's a fact.
It's a fact. And that's what happens. There's still a lot of them left. If you don't talk to them and you don't deliver for them, they're not going to vote for you. even if it's not in their best interest, which I think it is in their best interest to vote Democratic. But if you don't explain that to them, they're not going to vote for you.
You know, Marty, my issue was, and you raised a couple good points there. And the first one I'll say is, though, the message for Democrats, I believe, was not able to be gotten through because you couldn't get around the big ticket items. You know, you couldn't get around things that were like, they've used terms like weird, and things like that. And that there was a distraction level there that didn't necessarily comport with what the vast majority of Americans.
And they didn't get the message across that inflation, was because of COVID.
Right.
And we had a world pandemic.
Right.
But you have a hard time translating that to the voter, that when they're going to pay for their food and their food bill went from $100 to $350, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're peddling. It doesn't matter how good the stock market's doing. It's hitting them in the pocket. And if you're not doing anything to make it better for them, guess what? They're not voting for you.
There's no doubt.
And that's what we see here. And
well, I hope. My prediction is, as we continue on and you continue on in the Senate, you have a special relationship with the governor, Josh Shapiro, which to me sets you out, even among some of the senators and leadership. He trusts you to be one of his big supporters in the General Assembly in northeastern Pennsylvania. That's clear. So you have the governor's ear. That's important for our area. The other thing is that you're going to be one of the voices that if the Democrats want to win again, they're going to have to push you into leadership and have your ideas be, because you are the working class of Pennsylvania. You represent the working class of Pennsylvania. They have lost. And Marty, they didn't just lose the white working class people. They 25% more of
African Americans have gone back to
the Latinos was almost 50-50, 40 some. So, as far as the evidence, having lost your way, as I said, I was a proud Democrat for almost a half a century.
It should be a sobering moment right now.
It should be. Yeah. You would hope for our country. Because, while I was castigating the Democrats, if you heard any of my views, I said in every one, this country will never be great again unless there's a viable and strong two-party system. The Republicans and the Democrats. The Democrats have, like the Republicans a generation ago, start to go into irrelevancy, distracted with issues, biological, trans women, biological mares playing in sports with women, abortion up to 9 months. These aren't issues 90% of Americans, either party, don't agree with.
Why would you put that in the forefront of your political platform?
Of course.
You shouldn't.
It shouldn't be talked about. Well, at any rate, before you go, though, here today, we talked a little off camera. I want to give you another accolade. We did a show in the spring. You were one of the few voices, although I was one too, when our mayor of Scranton said that we don't have a gang problem. Even after gang members had shot a father when his son was when they took his cell phone and the father went to get it back. We had gang members shoot Detective Kyle Gilmartin in the head. That was a gang shooting. And he's a Scranton detective. And the mayor said, well, we don't have a gang problem. And then you knew and others knew that we do have a gang problem. So you showed leadership. You brought hundreds of thousands of dollars of money back from the General Assembly. You put it into law enforcement, specifically directed toward dealing with the gang problem. We did a show in the spring. We had the head of the Pennsylvania State Police Gang Task Force sitting at a table. We had the first assistant district attorney of Lackawanna County, who's in charge of the gang task force for Lackawanna County, Brian Gallagher, about to be the district attorney in Lackawanna County. And we had you from the Pennsylvania Senate. And you brought the money back. You identified the issues. Well, I'm proud to say, and you should take a bow, that you, with that money and with your leadership, along with others who saw this problem, we had one of the biggest gang busts in the history, maybe the biggest in northeastern Pennsylvania, when 8 or 9 members of the Crip gang were arrested in a raid, and some of that money you brought back contributed to that success. So on behalf of northeastern Pennsylvanians, congratulations, and we're going to all sleep better at night. Thanks to you, John.
Yeah, we definitely have a gang problem in Scranton that we have to keep fighting day in and day out, and our law enforcement's done a great job in attacking that. Like you said, I brought back some money to put forward that. But first, we have to recognize we have a problem and attack it. You can't try to sweep it under the rug day in and day out. Right. When Scranton has had one murder every couple of years, all of a sudden you have 7 murders. Right. You have a problem here.
There's no doubt about it. Well, again, you exhibited leadership. You're one of the people doing the Lord's work for us in the General Assembly. And that's as important. We have a federalist system. We don't have just a federal government. We have a state government, and they work hand in hand. Pretty much a split down the middle. So keep up the good work for us, Marty.
Thanks, Chuck. It's great being on here.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, you and
Merry
your family.
Christmas. You too.
Pennsylvania Senator, Democrat Marty Flynn. Well, that concludes episode 2 of Christmas Time in New York at the Pennsylvania Society Dinner at the Hilton Midtown. Although in past years we've been able to fit our entire Christmas show into 1 hour spread over 2 half-hour episodes, this year, because of the number of important guests, we've been forced to add a third show. So we'll be back again next week with part 3 of Christmas Time in New York, which will conclude our 11th year on the air. A friendly reminder, after a month off, we'll be back to start our 12th year on Sunday, January 26th of 2025. Ironically, that will be the week after the inauguration and we usher in a new government in America as well as in Pennsylvania. As a preview of Part 3 coming next Sunday, December 29th, at our usual time slot of 10:30 a.m., we will have Pennsylvania Treasurer Stacey Garrity, who is, after an astounding run in re-election as Pennsylvania State Treasurer, the highest vote total ever, in fact, she is now eyeing a run for governor of Pennsylvania against Josh Shapiro, as well as other interviews. We also will be taking a nostalgic look back next week at some of the highlights from previous parties, including all the way back to our last party at the Waldorf Astoria from 2016. It's, as a reminder, the Christmas Time show in New York next year and the Pennsylvania Society is moving back from whence it started in the first place 100 or so years ago. We will be moving back to the Waldorf Astoria. So that's why we think it's ironic, and you'll enjoy some of the footage from our last party there all the way back in 2016. We think you'll enjoy that show. In the meantime, we will sign off with the Penn counterparts. It's the choir from the University of Pennsylvania singing Hail Pennsylvania. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Volpe Report podcast. Be sure to visit our YouTube and Facebook pages for upcoming episodes. You can catch up on the Volpe Report podcast on your favorite podcast provider.